Welcome to the Running is Life podcast. I'm Coach Aaron Saft, and today I'm talking about my goofs in this past week. I figured I would do a screen share and give you guys an overview of what I've done this past week and how I goofed up. Let me start with giving you a little bit of back history here. Okay. So, if you've been following my training on Strava, you'll know that I was supposed to race the Cabin Fever 50K on February 17th in West Virginia. And I should also say that this episode might be helpful to watch on YouTube so you can get the visual. Right now, I'm sharing my screen with Training Peaks. So the YouTube version of this would be extremely helpful for you so you can see everything because I'm going to open up my runs, go through them and what was going on, the stress it created, and what I did wrong. So you can kind of follow along there. You can, of course, listen, take what you can from the audio. But like I said, suggested for this episode is to go over to the YouTube channel and perhaps watch this video so you can see my runs. You can also see Training Peaks if you've never used Training Peaks. Super helpful tool, some really cool stuff in here. It's what I use with my athletes and myself. Most of my comments are in Strava because that's where you guys see it, and it's helpful, I hope, for you guys to see the workouts and what was going on, all that kind of stuff. So I try to put more comments in Strava because you can't see my Training Peaks. Training Peaks is not a public platform like Strava. So that said, Cabin Fever 50K, sprained my ankle about 11 miles into the race. Obviously, you can see I got to 19.2. What happened was I got to the aid station at about 13 and a half miles, tried to continue to see if my ankle would loosen up. By 16, it was starting to defer some pain into my knee and my hip, and I had to pull the plug and just kind of hobble back to the aid station, thus giving me just over 19 miles for the day. Right call. It was definitely the right call because my ankle kind of came around pretty quickly. I took a few days off, and you can see here by Wednesday, after 3 days off, I was able to go for a run. Now, this run, if I bring it up and you can see, I'll bring up the map here. I actually was able to get in a trail run. This is by me in Mills River. This loop here. You can see I had some good vertical gain. Now, what I did here was I used a pretty substantial ankle brace. It's a lace up. It's very structured, lots of Velcro straps to give extra support to the ankle. And I also used my poles to give me support for that ankle. Now, what was going on with my ankle and why I decided to come back a little bit earlier just to talk about that for a minute. Um, so um, the ankle itself felt like something was out of place. It felt like there was something that was in the joint, a bone that just was out of place and it wasn't mobile. It wasn't moving like I felt like it should. I get that feeling every now and again. Um, and I had been working on it to kind of mobilize it. My wife wanted to be real um, gentle with it, not get, and really into the ankle and try to pop it or move bones or anything like that. So we just let it kind of do its thing. And so by this run, I felt like it was moving again where I could go out and run. I took it super easy. Okay. So if we go back to the summer, you can see 12 and a half minute pace. Just took it really easy. My max pace, 7:08. It was probably on a downhill. You can see that again if we go back to yeah, you can see it was probably right about here on a downhill, just kind of coming down. And I wasn't going fast on the downhills. I wasn't trying to be aggressive. You can see some of these pitches get pretty steep and you just start going naturally. So I was being real cautious, very deliberate with my foot placement, right? Using my poles for support. And it went okay. I didn't have any pain in the ankle, which was great. I was very happy about that. It started to feel like it was moving again, so that was awesome. Um, And not having to recover from the 50K, I was able to kind of get my training going again a lot sooner as well. Whereas if I had had the cabin fever 50K, yeah, I probably would have had these 3 days of down where I might have done some walking, maybe some treadmill hiking at incline. But it really would have been very similar to that. And then this first run back probably would have only been about 40 minutes to an hour, depending on how I felt. Zone two, right? Pure recovery effort. But again, because I didn't have that 50K on my legs, I was able to go a little bit further, which brought me to Thursday. And Thursday did a regular run, just an average run. Um, the pace obviously was a little bit quicker on this one. Okay, if I bring up the analysis, you can kind of see what I did. So I went over to Foster Creek. Foster Creek is a small pocket of national forest, not far from my house, about 2 miles from my house. I ran there on the roads. It's 2 miles of roads. And then you can see, I'm going to blow this up a little bit. You can see this little pocket. That's actually national forest, all that green there, that little area. That's Foster Creek. So did a little bit of running in Foster Creek. It's not much elevation gain, not very technical. Again, wore my ankle brace, brought my poles. Okay. And that's why my pace was a little bit quicker. Okay. 9:57. Um, and then, just shy of 1,000 feet of gain in 9 1/3 miles. Okay. If we go to my heart rate, you can see spent about 28 minutes or so in zone two, about just over an hour in zone three. So that's why I say it's a regular run. I had, a mix of zone two and zone three. 8 seconds of zone four. So did really good about keeping my heart rate down. Didn't really get into zone four much at all. I was wearing my chest heart rate strap for this. Okay. So that's the data from this run here. Okay, so super easy run, just a regular run, nothing special. Single track, ankle's doing good, pretty happy about that. So nothing too big from these 2 days, right? Not much stress. Okay. Um, then Friday, I wasn't sure what the weekend was going to bring. I was traveling to New York on Friday night. We were driving to Blacksburg, Virginia, and then Saturday we were finishing off our trip. So I wasn't sure what the weekend was going to present to me so far as availability to run. We had some family obligations that we were going up north for, and I knew my time would be limited. So I wanted to get something in that had some decent climbing. So this one is my medium long run on Friday. Okay, so you can see it's almost 12 and a half miles. Again, pace 13:04, but the reason for that, I had 3,000 feet of climbing. Okay. Um, let's see. I'm trying to remember. No, I didn't wear my heart rate strap on this. It would pop up here. Did not wear heart rate, just went for a run. And then um, here you can see the climbing very similar to the route I did previously. I found a new trail, and that was actually this descent right here. You can see it kind of highlight on the map as I go down the hill here. That was somebody's building a new trail. Um, it it's off of when you start. I'm sorry, it's actually, let's see. I was on this trail right here, which is a ridge trail. And Nathan Franz and I were running the other day, and we saw this trail that just kind of went off to the right, and we're like, "Oh, what's that?" So I decided to take it, and that's what this downhill is. Brings me back out on, for those of you that know Forest Road 5,000. Seems like a really good climb. I'm actually thinking about going back out there tomorrow, and just doing back and forth between there's a climb right from the bus stop as you enter the area. Those of you who don't know, forgive me, but there's a good climb from there, and that takes you right up to this trail that somebody's cutting in, and it brings you back down. So I'm thinking about just going back and forth on that and getting like a good vert day. My friend Zach Dean, also one of my athletes, is doing Scar this weekend and asked me to do the back half with him, which is not the climbing half. So I have to be a little bit careful about how much I do. Um, Thursday because that would be Saturday, potentially Saturday night that I would be helping him going from Klingman's Dome to the finish at Devonport Gap. Got to be careful what I'm doing, but still, I want to get my training in. Effort wouldn't be too big, but I'm going to talk about how I'm feeling and what's going to go into that decision. It may be a run day decision. Um, this run used, my nutrition like I plan to use for Heartbreaker and for Hellbender. I was doing a flask of Morton 160 every hour and a half, and that's about, I guess, 17 or 18 fluid ounces plus 160 calories. And then I was alternating a spring Canterbury gel or a Morton 100 gel every hour is the way I was doing it. That's what I came up with Meredith Terranova, sports nutritionist. So that's what this run entailed. Again, ankle fine, doing okay, good run. I was very happy with it. Felt good on the climbing, feeling strong. Pole work is feeling good, feeling comfortable with the poles. So good run there. But again, that one was a little bit more stressful. Obviously, if we look at total time, I was out there about 2 hours and 40 minutes. So a lot of time on feet. Now, again, remember, stress is created by the duration of the run, not the distance of the run, but how much time you're on your feet. Okay. That's what the body recognizes is how much time you're actually exercising. So a lot of time here. Okay. And this is the beginning of where I started to go wrong. Okay. So note this Friday. Okay. Friday is beginning of where things started to go wrong. Now, luckily, I've caught this, and we're going to talk about, all the way through here to where I am today. You can see the today run. We'll get there, but what's in between, you'll see I created too much stress in too short of a period of time. Now, this is one of the things I said don't do. And as I told you in that episode when I talked about pitfalls of our training, I fell into one of them. I make mistakes too. It's a lot was going on, and I'm gonna say some of these runs were just needed and mental. The family matters that I had to deal with. My grandmother passed away, and open honesty. I was going up to New York for her funeral, and I was dealing with a lot of grief. And so running was definitely helping me process everything that was going on. It was allowing me to be there for my family, be strong for my family, keep a smile on my face to try to make everybody else feel, that they could get through this too. Okay. So, with that said, we traveled Friday night, got in late Friday night. I had an early wake up call on Saturday. I got up, well, I shouldn't say early. I got up around, I don't know, 7 so that I could get some sleep. The big thing here is, with me is that I usually have to get up early to run, as you're going to see through some of these other runs, and I lose some sleep because of that. So Saturday, I decided to do a progression run. I was in Blacksburg. The Huckleberry Trail, for anybody familiar with the Huckleberry Trail, runs between Christiansburg and Blacksburg. I hadn't been on it in so long, and I used to do so many workouts when we lived there from 2003 to 2007. I used to do a lot of workouts on that, and it just felt like, doing something, and decided to kind of just let it naturally progress. Now, I was wearing my heart rate strap here, so we'll talk about that in a moment. But a progression run, if you're familiar or not familiar, you're just gradually building the effort, right? So the pace is, gradually dipping. If you're on a flatter run, if you're on a mountainous run, it's more your heart rate is gradually building over the course of the run rather than the pace. Because obviously, if you're on a trail, if there's a lot of climbs and descents, pace is going to be all over the place. So it's more about the effort, about the heart rate. And the same thing happened here, as I'll show you here. Let's see. So you can see my max pace got down to 6:54. I averaged 7:56 for the run. Decent run from where I'm at, right? I haven't really been doing much in this regard. Just been kind of doing a lot of zone 2, zone 3 running. Now, like, I was a little bit concerned. Okay. Again, I had done a medium long run the day before 2 hours and 40 minutes, a lot of stress. Here I am coming back with an hour 35 and doing 12 miles in an hour 35. So, substantial amount of effort here, right? Because I'm putting in a lot of distance in a short amount of time. So a lot of stress there as well. Um, the heart rate, you can see how much time I spent in each zone. Not much time in zone two. I spent a lot of time in zone three. And as I progressed into zone four, spending, just over a half hour in zone four. Haven't really done that in a while. Okay. Good to do every now and again, touch on these paces. I could tell I hadn't, or these efforts, I hadn't really done this in a while. And kind of made me recognize I need to do a little bit more. But I have to be careful because again, I'm stacking a lot of fatigue right here. Okay. So going to the analyze page, you can see, okay, I'm gonna hide this purple line is power. I don't really care about power. Also gonna hide cadence just so you can see a little bit clearer how my heart rate, you can see it kind of gradually gets higher and higher, right? Because that's the effort. I'm increasing my effort over the course of this run, as did my pace. You can see my pace kind of correlates other than, this uphill at the top where my pace dropped a bit to accommodate for the uphill. But for the most part, we've got this steady line, this steady progression of pace and heart rate. Okay. So, solid progression run. I was quite happy with it. Again, based on where I was, I use the Topo Atmos, so not the fastest shoe on earth. It's what I had with me. And it felt fine. I'm not going to say it felt clunky or, it didn't feel like it was really hindering me in any way. Probably not the best shoe for moving at speed, but, that's what I had. So anyway, that's, give you the overview, of that workout. Okay. So again, pretty tough run. Okay. So that's the progression run. That was Saturday. So I went from a progression run, so medium long run Friday, progression run Saturday, and Sunday was my long run. Now I had communicated with one of my former athletes who lived up there, and I said, hey, I need some vert, looking for a place to go. What would you suggest? And he suggested this section of the long path. This section I'm very familiar with. I grew up in this area. My dad lived just a few miles from the terminus of this turnaround point. Okay. So, I was really familiar with this trail, knew it well. I texted my dad because he was already up in New York. I said, hey, any snow on the ground? He said, no, yep. It's, not, maybe just a little bit here and there, but not much. Knew this was technical. I knew this was a technical section of the trail. So, I had some concerns, obviously, with the ankle. I had my poles with me. And I had my ankle brace. So, I just had to be careful. So showing you the run, you can see I started about 4:45 a.m. So I started in the dark, right? I knew I had to get this done. I had breakfast with my sister and needed to get back to the hotel so that I could get the family and we could go to breakfast. So I had to get this done. So we got into New York kind of late the night before, kind of sacrificed some sleep just so I could get up and get this done because I knew I wouldn't have time any other day, but I really wanted to get this in. So, again, sacrifice some sleep. Not the best thing. Honestly, not the best thing with having everything that I had done the previous 2 days. But it was the situation I was in. So here we are, right? So started out on the trail in the dark and snow almost out the bat. It was right off the bat. It was snow on the trail. And it was cold. It was real cold. I think it was under 20 degrees. So I think I started, it might have been 17 or 18 degrees when I started. So pretty chilly and, kind of moving, doing my best, to move through this. You can see, total elevation gain right here, 4,900 feet. So pretty good climbing for an 18-mile run. Was slow going, A being dark, B being technical, C with the snow, and then, me just being cautious. I just was, going pretty slow, 14:55 pace, just, just creeping. And what happened was, I got to maybe mile, I don't know, maybe mile six, and I slid and my pole snapped. So I broke another pole, which was disheartening because I was only 6 miles in. I had obviously 12 miles to go on a very technical, snowy run, and I only had one pole. And I was trying to use the one pole, but it just was throwing me off. So I just put my poles back in my quiver. I was carrying the Solomon quiver, and just went poleless, and kept moving forward. It was okay. If we kind of look at the elevation profile and let it pop up here, you can kind of see, some good climbs and descents, right? On the way out and back. Definitely had some up and down. It's a beautiful ridge trail on this portion of the long path. Now, this here, you can see Walker Valley right there. My dad lived up here. That's where I grew up, and he's since sold the house. But the trail actually, comes up here. I didn't quite get to the road. I was kind of on a time crunch, so spent as long as I could out on the trail, and especially given those conditions, knew I had to turn around and get back. So actually moving back, it actually felt pretty good. I was moving, pretty decently. Nice thing about Training Peaks is you can actually go back and kind of see, those miles and see how you're moving. But yeah, so um, moved well, but again, another big effort. This is 3 days in a row of big efforts. Friday being the medium long run, um, Saturday being the progression run, and now Sunday being a long run. Okay, a lot of time on feet here. So we're talking over, let's see, six, 7.5, almost 8 hours of time between 3 days, right? So well over 2 hours a day. A lot of time on feet. Okay, so a lot of stress here. Dealing with grandma's, wake, funeral. So a lot of emotional distress. So stress from that. It was just a lot going on. So it, I felt okay on this run though. That said, I felt okay. But could tell that, I wasn't really too peppy, but my legs weren't too bad. So, um, so long run there. I had planned on taking Monday off. Monday was going to be an off day, but with everything going on and my grandmother's funeral right in front of me, I needed to run and I needed to get out. We were staying in Middletown where I grew up, where I went to high school and stuff. And I just told my wife, I think I need to go out and run. I kind of felt some anxiety. Um, Definitely wanted to kind of think through some things and kind of let some things just out of my mind, and process them on a run. So I went out what was supposed to be a recovery run. I threw on my heart rate, but I really didn't pay attention to it as I should have. I just went for a run. I just felt like I needed to get out there. This should have been a day where I stayed zone two, honestly and truly. Either a day off or stayed in zone two, but I did not. I'll show you the heart rate data here. You can see I was primarily zone three with touches of now the zone 4 and 5 here is due to a connection issue at the beginning of the run. I'll show you that in a second, but I was primarily zone three. So kind of goofed here. Another goof. It going too hard on what should have been an easy day. So if I go to back here, you can see at the beginning on a downhill, heart rate was spiking, and it was just a connection error. So that's where that zone 4 and 5 comes from. If you look at the rest of the run, I was primarily zone three. And you can see the zones. If I hide, and then I'll hide everything else. And then here's my zones. So this is another cool feature of Training Peaks. Now that may be hard to see, but zone three is right in here. This kind of you can see how it makes those lines. Um, Okay, so if I give you a little bit more of a highlight, you can see I stayed pretty much zone two and zone three. You can see how it taps into those other zones. Okay. But not much. I didn't really get too high. Kind of stayed mid zone three. I was just running, but again, I should have stayed zone two. So goof on my part. That was, not what I should have been doing. Okay. Side note, I did get to run on my high school track. This is my high school here. That's the actual track itself. The little curves, I picked up some trash because it should be a big oval. But the track is beautiful. Oh my goodness, they did a wonderful job. When I grew up, it was a paved track. It is now an 8-lane rubberized championship track. It is beautiful, absolutely beautiful facility. Very jealous. But it was a nice run. I got a lot of time in my head, a lot of time to think. I tried getting in touch with my old high school coach actually and seeing if I could, catch up with him. Didn't work out, unfortunately, but even still, it was what I needed. It was what I needed that day, mentally, not physically. So, again, another day. So again, we had medium long run, progression run, long run, and what should have been a recovery run, but what ended up being a regular run. Okay. I labeled it recovery run just so you understand that should have been a recovery run, but in actuality, it was not. Okay. Um, so um, wanted to get in something on Tuesday, and this is where I really, really messed up. Okay. I should have, again, just done an easy run because of all the stress that I had created over the weekend, all and everything that I had been through emotionally, just a lot of stress. Had to get up early to do it, had to wake up at 5 in order to get it in because we were traveling back to North Carolina yesterday. I'm recording this here on Wednesday, and the but I don't know, I like had it in my head I want to do this, and that I know better, I do, and the problem with coaching yourself sometimes is you do things that are stupid sometimes, and this was a stupid thing because I've had 4 days basically without recovery, without true zone two or day off, right? I've been pushing, 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 and here I am, day 5, now throwing in a workout. Okay. So this is the pinnacle of my stupidity right here. Okay. So I did a workout called the halftime fartlek. It's on Strava. You can see it. You can see what the workout was. Quick description. You do a 5 minute at about 80% max heart rate, probably about 7 RPE. Then you get half of the recovery. So you get 2 minutes and 30 seconds recovery. Then you go 4 minutes at about maybe 80 to 85% maximum heart rate with 2 minutes recovery. Then 3 minutes at 85, yeah, 85%. Then a minute and a half recovery. Then 2 minutes at about 85 to 90% maximum heart rate. And then 1 minute recovery. And then a 1 minute interval at about 90% max heart rate and then cool down. Now I had a good long warm up and a good long cool down. You can see I got in about 10 and a half miles of running in about just over an hour and a half. Okay. If I go to time and zones, you can see I didn't spend much time in zone 5. Okay. This is about 15 minutes of hard work. Okay. So, if you add that up, it's about 13 minutes in zone 4 and zone 5. So, spent a little time in gray area in that zone 3, zone 4 borderland. It's really my first workout back. And I could feel that I had like no turnover whatsoever. Did this in the Atmos as well. Coming off of all of the other fatigue. Turnover was okay. I didn't feel bad. It was a pretty good workout. I could just tell I didn't have a lot in me to go fast, which is frustrating. And that's kind of what I've been feeling lately is the frustration of not being able to touch speeds that I'm used to. Now, what happened afterwards, after this workout, and I can kind of show you this piece real quick, just to show you, again, I'm going to hide some of the frivolous data. Um, the reason I'm sorry, I don't know why that didn't see hide and hide. The reason I hide power, let's just talk about power for a second. Um, there is not a good way to measure power of a runner. At this moment, there really just isn't because power is generated from our muscles. And on a bike, it's mechanical. We can see how much force we're putting into a pedal. Okay, so there is something to measure there because we have a mechanical force that we can measure. Whereas in running, it's the force that's generated from the muscle. And we can't really measure that, especially since we run on different surfaces, with different shoes, it just changes so much. So power is not a good metric to measure with. So that's why I hide power. Power is just not something runners should go by at this time. You know, and I heard somebody talking on a podcast recently. I think it was the Doctors of Running, and the host, she was saying that she wears the Stride pod, and it varies so greatly from shoe to shoe, right, and from surface to surface. It doesn't, the metrics don't pan out, right? It just doesn't give you the information, the valid information that you're looking for. So that's why I hide power. I don't go by power with running. Okay. So simply here you can see the intervals. They're pretty easy to see. You can see the 5 minute, 4 minute, 3 minute, 2 minute, 1 minute, and you can see how they gradually get harder with each one. So, mission accomplished. I had a decent workout. It was okay. But again, I'm creating another day of stress, right? So, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row now without a down day, without a true off day or a zone 2 run, right? So we drive back yesterday. We get in late last night. I get in bed after 11, and then I wake up at 5 to go for a run. Now, that was my first problem. I woke up at 5 a.m. after a short night's sleep, after a long day in the car, after a workout. All that should have said, just sleep in, get as much sleep as you can, get as much recovery as you can, right? But in my feeble mind, I decided that I needed to get a run in. That's what I needed. I didn't need anything else. I needed to get that run in. And that was wrong. I was wrong. I should have slept in. And if I didn't get a run in today, that probably was the best thing. Now you can see in my mind when I was out running, I started out and my legs just felt like bricks. And I was like, oh, this feels awful. I couldn't find my strap for my heart rate, but you can see as I went here, my average pace was 11:01. So super slow, right? This is, I very low zone 2. I may have even been high zone 1 because I was just shuffling. This is a shuffle pace for me because you look at the elevation gain, 154 feet. I was on my road. It's completely flat. It's dirt. Okay. But based on how I was feeling in those first few steps, I probably should have just turned around and went home. Right? Yeah, there's benefits to doing a jog, a recovery jog. You're getting fresh oxygen, fresh blood to the muscles, kind of clearing things out. Hopefully, getting it. But as fatigued as I was, I should have slept in. I should have just taken an off day based on how many days in a row I've gone. This is where you start to ride that fine red line in training between too much fatigue and injury, right? That's the direction that I'm heading if I keep going, if I keep pushing, right? So, I put a question mark here. Split recovery run number 1. Like in order to get in volume, sometimes you split your recovery run so that you can get in more volume. So the intention here would be that I would get this run in the morning. You can see I ran for 55 minutes. And then what I would do is this evening, I would do another run. Now, ideally, I want to separate these runs by at least 6 to 8 hours. If I was purposeful, I'd separate it by at least 12. That's true recovery there, especially for recovery runs. The way I am feeling, I am not going to do a second run. I will not be doing a split recovery run today. I will just take off because of how I felt. So again, biggest blunder here. I should have slept in, should have just taken the day off and let the body recover, right? If I looked at my Koros app and I had it, it says the body is fatigued. It's you're overstressing, over pushing, overtraining, whatever word you want to use. You're doing too much, right? Like that was there too. And that should have sent off red flags and just been like, hey, Aaron, take a day off. You need it, right? But in my mind, I'm so used to just going out and training and pushing through, right? That's the habit that I've created. And that's the habit I need to break. It's one of the pitfalls that I talked about is taking the recovery days when you need them. And I should have known that, and I should have done better. And I should have had that discipline to say, today should be an off day. Today, I should focus on my sleep. That is part of the recovery process. And I should have prioritized that, but I did not. So again, I stress to you, when you look at your training and you go back, just as I went through what I just did, and you start to see how many days in a row you're taxing the systems and not having a recovery day, and I mean a true recovery day by either a zone 2 run or a day off, right? And a zone 2 run, it's just a easy short run, right? And it depends on what your volume is as to how long that should be. What should your recovery look like? How many minutes should you be out there, right? Um, so when you look at that and then you look at how many days you've been going, is it worth the day off? Is it worth sacrificing sleep to get up and try to get your run in? In my case, it was not. And that's why I brought this up, right? I want you to take away from my mistakes. Okay. So I hope in your training, when you look at it, and again, that's why I love Training Peaks. I'm going to close this for a moment here. And I'm sorry, like I said, I don't have heart rate data on this one, but that effort, this was primarily zone 2, if not in some zone 1. But when I see that, right, when I see that 11:01 pace, that sends up a red flag. Holy cow, that's slow for me. Sorry, I don't mean to, make fun of anybody for, if that's your normal pace. I'm sorry, that's not my intention here. That's slow for me, right? My zone 2 pace is down in the 9-minute range. Okay. That's where my zone 2 is. If I'm on a flat dirt road like I usually am, I should be in the 9-minute range. But here I am at 11:01, almost 2 minutes slower. That's a red flag. I am tired. I am fatigued. I need downtime, right? So look at your variables, look at these things and determine what's going on. When I see this on one of my athletes, I definitely check in and say, hey, this was a lot slower than what you're usually doing. Are you really tired? Are you okay? Oh, no, I was just running with a friend and they were going slower. Like that, I want to make sure that these paces aren't setting up a red flag to say, oh, we're overtraining, right? This is a sign that I'm overtraining. Okay. So look at these variables. We can control this. We can do better. I can do better. I need to do better. Otherwise, I'm not going to be absorbing any of the training because I'm going to be too fatigued to do so. If we're too fatigued, all of the stimulus that we put on it just creates more fatigue and we slow down. We don't make improvements. So again, look at your variables, look at what you're doing, look at your time frame, right? So that's why I wanted to go through all of this with you. So you don't fall into the same traps and do the same stupid things that I'm doing right now. So what does this mean for me? What should I be doing? Right? What should I be doing? So tonight I should prioritize sleep. Prioritize sleep is the biggest thing, right? I'm not going to wake up early tomorrow morning to run. If I have time tomorrow, I may do just a short recovery run. Again, zone 2, because what my body's telling me right now is that's what it needs. It doesn't need more stress. What I was talking about earlier about going out and doing the climb and descent and doing repeats on that, it's probably not what my body needs, right? I need recovery. So I need to just go back out tomorrow if I run and just do flat on my road, stay zone 2 and recover, focus on recovery if I have time, because you can't be stressed about fitting in your run all the time, especially for a recovery effort. I talked about this with my athletes last week on one of our Zoom calls. You have to prioritize what's the most important, right? Is it creating another run and finding time for it? If that's stressing you out, then it's not worth trying to fit in a recovery run. Take the time off and do whatever else you need to do. Use it as a recovery day. Again, that's what my body's telling me I need is a recovery day. So tomorrow may just be a day off for me where I focus on sleep, I focus on good food, and I focus on hydration. My hydration has been really good. I'll admit, due to the funeral and stuff, being around my family, my nutrition wasn't great. I got back on it yesterday on our travels. As hard as that is to do, I focused entirely on making sure my nutrition was good and my hydration was good. I took a lot of naps yesterday in the car while my wife was driving, but I need some solid sleep in order to get true recovery. And that's what I'm going to do tonight is get solid sleep. Perhaps tomorrow just take the day off because I want to help my friend on Saturday. I want to help Zach. So that's, looking at what's ahead. Also, I have to remember I've got Heartbreaker coming up, right? This will be a big effort this weekend, right? But Heartbreaker is not my goal. Heartbreaker is a 50 miler that I'm just going to go out and experience. I'm not racing it. I just want to go out there and be on the course, experience, have a good day. If I have a great day, that's awesome. That's great, but it's not my intention. I want to be there for my friend this weekend. That's my priority. He asked me to be out there, and that's more important to me than Heartbreaker 50 miler. So if I sacrifice a little bit to help my friend, I'm happy to do it because I really want to be there for him. He's done a lot for me. He's been very supportive of me as a coach, as a friend, and I want to return that. So I want to be out there for him. So again, it's making sure that these next 2 days I do whatever I need to do to recover so that I can have a good effort this weekend and enjoy the time out on the trail with my friend. So that's me trying to prioritize my training, trying to prioritize my running. Okay. Yeah, it's going to create some more fatigue, right? I know that. So this week can be a down week because you see my maximum volume phase starts on the 11th. So I'm okay to take a recovery week here if I need to reduce my volume because my volume is going to increase for the next 6 weeks from the 11th. You can see all the way down. Oops, I'm going to take that off. That was for something else. So my taper isn't until the 28th. So or excuse me, 26th. So, I've got a decent amount of time here. A big block, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 6.5 weeks in the maximum volume phase. So I have plenty of time in the volume to build my volume. And that's what my intention and my focus is going to be is on the volume. I'll do some progression runs, some strides just to kind of touch on other speeds. But the reality is I'm going to focus entirely on the volume and making sure I'm recovered from those efforts because I'm getting really close to Hellbender. Okay. 10 weeks out to Hellbender. I know that sounds like a decent amount of time. It's 2.5 months. It will go by in an instant. And so I want to make sure that in this phase, I'm getting in plenty of good volume, but I'm also recovering. And that means listening to my body and watching my metrics. Where is my resting heart rate? Okay. That's one metric I always tell my athletes I want them to record is their resting heart rate. And now, your app should give that to you if you're wear your watch to sleep. That's, it's a great thing to watch. Just making sure that your resting heart rate, your average, is not staying elevated for too long. If it's staying elevated, 3 to 5 points higher than what your average is for, 5 or more days, it means that you're overtraining, you're pushing too hard, you're not recovering. And again, that's when we're going to miss the adaptations because we're in a fatigue state, right? We make the adaptations in our recovery, right? And that's what I'm not allowing to happen in these last 5 days. I created a lot of stimulus, but I didn't allow for my body to absorb it because I didn't allow for the recovery. Okay. And part of the recovery is your sleep. So prioritize your sleep. Okay. I hope you took a lot away from this episode. If it creates questions, by all means, let me know. I had a great question come in from Ron. Ron asked me about maximum heart rate. He had done a race in which it yielded, and he was wearing a chest heart rate monitor. It yielded a higher heart rate than what his maximum suggested in his Coros app. Now that's possible. That is entirely possible. A lot of times we just use the calculation 207 minus 0.07 times your age or 220 minus your age. Sometimes we just use those to kind of generate kind of an estimate of what our maximum heart rate is. Now, so he said, is there anything I can do to, check this? And yes, there's a great workout that you can do. Here, I'll bring it up. I think it's under time trials. This is my workout library. Okay, so here we go. Again, those that are listening to this, you may want to check out this part if you're interested on the YouTube video. Okay. But here's the workout. Okay. The description says at a track, do a warm-up mile or two, followed by a mile at tempo pace, then gradually increase your speed over 400 meters before running a final quarter all out. So you run 400 meters, gradually building the pace, then you run another 400 meters all out. Okay. After every 100 meters during the last 400 meters, look at your monitor and accelerate. Um, this is from Roy Benson. Okay. A great coach. The highest number on your monitor will be close to your maximum heart rate. Okay. So the great thing about Training Peaks, Strava, Koros is that it will yield that number for you. You will see what your maximum heart rate was during that effort. Okay. So if you do this workout, okay, then there you go. You can find out what truly is your maximum heart rate. Now, again, I stress, please use a heart rate monitor strap. Okay. I know that everybody's turned on to these new Koros armbands. What I'm seeing is that it's reading lower than what it probably should be. A lot of times, due to optical heart rate, it reads higher. This monitor specifically is reading lower than what it should be. A lot of my athletes are getting so much time in zone one, and I know they're not in zone one running, okay, especially at the paces they're at. So it could be reading lower. So careful with the technology. Optical heart rate is not as precise as the chest heart rate monitor straps. Okay, so make sure you're wearing your chest heart rate monitor strap, that it has a good connection, that it looks like it's accurate for what you're running. Okay, become familiar with it before you do something like this to make sure that you know where your heart rate typically is at those type of efforts. Okay. So like, don't just buy one and go out and do this workout. Become a little bit more familiar with it prior to doing this workout. Okay. So that you do get your maximum heart rate. Then you can base a lot of your training, as I kind of discussed, where is my actual zone two? Where am I running zone two? Now, of course, you could do this in a lab. Exercise physiology labs will do maximum heart rate tests. They'll do max VO2, they'll do lactate testing. They do a million things. So you can find these numbers out. Is it essential for training? No, not necessarily, right? If you're running off of rating of perceived exertion, it's not necessary, right? But if you want to find out for running in your correct heart rate zones, it would be good to have an accurate number to go by. Now, doing this once is great. Doing it twice will yield a better result because you can see if you got the same result. I wouldn't do it obviously back to back. I would give yourself like maybe 2 weeks in between, and do it a second time and see what it yields and see how close they are, and then maybe even average the two. And now, okay. So, great question from Ron about max heart rate tests. But there you go. That's the workout for you. Okay. If you have questions, again, let me know. Happy to help. Um, and Yeah, that's about all I have for this episode. I really appreciate everybody and your time, and all your questions, comments, for sure. Appreciate you all. And I will talk to you next week. Until then, keep moving forwards as running is life, my friends.